It was. It's just another one of the objects that was seen that night, but it is a UFO, and it's quite spectacular looking, and we'd like to know what it is or what shows up behind those lights.
The Canadian Defense Department investigates UFO that dived into Nova Scotia Bay.
Early in the investigation, Chris Stiles joined forces with Don Ledger, who had his own sighting on the night of the UFOs.
Don brought a pragmatic approach to the UFO investigations. He had called me, hearing of some of my exploits on UFO matters. He became very interested, and we decided to combine forces to try to shed some light upon that case and the UFO phenomena.
The Shag Harbour incident seems to be the UFO story that never ends. It seems the more you investigate the Shag Harbour story, the more detail you get. It never seems to dry up. There's always another detail that comes out, another witness that comes forward. It's a highly anomalous incident that took place in 1967 and seems to continue and continue and continue, and it still continues.
But what of the official investigation of Shag Harbour? If the military and police were calling the objects UFOs, would their official documents provide more details? Chris hoped to find that answer through the National Archives of Canada. He was not surprised when he learned the military had a keen interest in Shag Harbour.
Records Group 77 is a hodgepodge of UFO reports from civilian, military, and police sources. It gives a whole cross-section of Canadian UFO reports. And what they are mostly is a record that was compiled and sorted through and preserved by the National Research Council.
RG-77 contains over 7,000 UFO documents dating back to 1947.
I knew that there was a microfilm record in Ottawa of UFO documents. I'd heard it mentioned by other researchers. I tried to read up on as much literature as possible, and I just requested anything and everything they had from that period in the hope that something would have a bearing on Shag Harbour, and indeed we did strike pay dirt in RG-77.
The breakthrough came in the form of official telexes between Ottawa and Nova Scotia.
There are a number of documents, a number of telexes that went between the bases and the D&D record that show that they thought they were dealing with a real UFO incident. Some of the officers wrote on these documents, which have been preserved on microfilm. And perhaps what's even more telling is the margin notes. We have 3 letters scrawled at the top, UFO, and underlined 3 times. I've looked at thousands of documents from various UFO incidents, and that's the only case where I've ever seen this reaction. I've often said, I don't know if what's responsible here is extraterrestrial, extratemporal, or extra-dimensional, but it was certainly unconventional. And I think they ran with that premise in Ottawa, and I think that the priority and the tone of these documents speaks loudly that they were dealing with something potentially extraterrestrial.
Canadian Forces Station Barrington lies 13 miles from Shag Harbour. This NORAD radar station provided aerial detection during the height of the Cold War. Chris and Don wanted to know what role it played in Shag Harbour.
I think we would have been very concerned. What is it? Whose is it? What are its intentions? Did the various and sundry sensing systems in the area detect anything? Where is that thing? What's it doing? And do we have any good, solid information on it? So what I'm saying is you have to look at this from a strictly military viewpoint. Defense. What's going on? What can we do about it? That's a very important consideration in today's world.
And if this is truly is a vehicle or vehicles from other planets, then finding out their method of propulsion, finding out what they're made of, finding out how they work, would give tremendous military advantage to the nation that uncovered that information.
That would be very hot military data, partly because it may tell you where you're vulnerable.
Did this radar site detect the Shag Harbour UFO?
This is still active. It's there's a landline running out of here somewhere, and it's feeding Greenwood for western approach, and I think they're using the Halifax to probably link through to Moncton Center and New Brunswick.
It's all automated, of course.
Oh, it's all automated, yeah, but it's still working.
Yeah.
And
You can certainly see why they picked this site for the base, though.
traffic's constantly going through here all day long. It's up there now, probably just can't see it. If there was something over there, this thing had to have it on it.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, like a lot of UFO reports, they don't pick them up on radar, but apparently they did.
But then again,
coming in over Siberia, they had it. They had it over northwestern Canada and Alaska and so on.
You look at Mercy's RCMP report, he had returns at his sighting up at Sambro, what?
Yeah.
2 hours to half an hour before a deck of radar.
Yeah.
And they had visual sightings too, you know. And one of those objects was seen to surface and arc toward southwestern Nova Scotia. So, yet these boys saw nothing, not a thing.
They saw nothing. Radar, negative.
I don't know. It just isn't credible. Let's take a look up here. But at the end of it, it's interesting that the military still stated that they believed that something had indeed gone into the water and that it had been unconventional. They just didn't find it. It's kind of different from the other ufological stories, not only in that no one reported a UFO, but in this case, this is the one that got away.
Or did it get away?
When the first atom bomb was tested, July 16th, 1945, rather successfully out in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico, Trinity site, people saw it 100 miles away, even though it was 5:30 in the morning. So a press story went out, an ammunition dump had blown up, and fortunately nobody was injured. That appeared in a number of papers in New Mexico. Had to say something. They were lying through their teeth, but of course they were, and they should. Whether you're looking for a crashed saucer, a downed Soviet piece of hardware from space, or a downed American piece of hardware from space, it's all the same problem. How to mobilize people, how to package, ship, where do you do it, how do you keep other people away?
A former staff member of the Barrington radar station breaks this military code of silence.
It had involved a lot of people. It was a big event. And they had thought that it was something out of the normal. And everybody inside that room knew what had happened that night and were held to secrets.
He was briefed by his commanding officer about what the radar actually detected that night.
He had seemed to think that it had entered the airspace somewhere in northwestern Canada and it sort of wobbled through the atmosphere until it limped into Atlantic Canada. That it almost hit an airplane somewhere outside of Quebec, and that it had crash landed in Shag Harbour, that there was another one tending it, and that after the event, they both had moved.
Did the military know that there were in fact 2 UFOs in Shag Harbour, and that they had left the impact site submerged, coming to rest off the coast near a top-secret military base, 30 miles away?
I think that perhaps if there is evasion, and if perhaps there's a coordinated cover-up, then somebody somewhere had to be smart enough that that little light bulb went on and they said, look, what better way? We got a bonus situation here to cover up a UFO attempted recovery operation 30 miles away and say, yes, guess what? We think a UFO crashed, and have everybody and all the cameras pointed at the impact site. However, it still is hard to fathom. And as much as I dislike the story, and still dislike the story, I had to make sense of it, and I certainly had to make it known.